Now, Poland's parliament is due to reconvene today amid escalating political tensions. Prime Minister Donald Tusk's newly formed government has sparred with the incumbent Conservative president, Andrzej Duda, since taking office last month. One of the latest spats has been over two former Conservative officials convicted on corruption charges, who the president is now trying to pardon. The power struggle is testing Poland's democratic guardrails.
Donald Tusk and Andrzej Duda represent two different versions of a deeply divided Poland. Prime Minister Tusk favors closer ties with the European Union, while President Duda is seen as protecting traditional values. Duda is supported by the Nationalist Conservative Law and Justice, or PiS party, which won the most seats in October's parliamentary election. But amid record turnout, Poles voted for change and gave a majority to the pro-European Progressive Coalition led by Tusk. As part of his duties as head of state, President Duda swore in his rival Tusk as the new prime minister in December and pledged cooperation.
I can assure you that I will certainly not oppose anything that serves the good of the people and the Republic of Poland.
But since then, the two have been at odds over many of the Tusk government's reforms. And Duda, as president, still wields considerable constitutional powers, including the ability to veto legislation. Tusk has accused President Duda of supporting conservatives' efforts to destabilize the country. At a memorial rally for a popular mayor stabbed to death 5 years ago, Tusk spoke of the need to overcome hate and division.
Today, our nation faces a crucial question. Which path will we choose? All Poles will have to answer this important question.
But the nationalist conservative opposition has also been rallying its supporters too. Observers say the tug-of-war between the president and parliament could push Poland into a constitutional crisis.
Let's get more on this now with Marcin Saborowski, Polish political scientist from the think tank Globsec. Good morning, Mr. Saborowski. Right now in Poland, you have a president who traces his politics to the former ruling PiS party and a prime minister who until recently was in the opposition. How workable is this arrangement?
Well, it's a super difficult arrangement because the two men are coming from completely different worlds. It's not just a cohabitation of people of different views, but of very different mindset. So you can imagine it's a little bit like as if you had a cohabitation between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. It would be extremely difficult, as you can imagine. Still, on Monday, the two gentlemen met. After the meeting, they both issued a statement saying that there are matters on which they agree and there are matters on which they disagree. The matters that they agree concern Poland's security, foreign affairs, Poland's defense. Obviously, we are at the forefront of war in Ukraine, so here a workable arrangement between the two men is important, but they disagree on domestic affairs.
Speaking of those domestic affairs, you have Prime Minister Tusk, who is already facing pushback from President Duda over reversing controversial judicial reforms from the previous government. Is Poland, in your view, headed towards a constitutional crisis, perhaps?
I think there is a strong likelihood of that. During the 8 years of the Law and Justice government being in power, the rule of law system was essentially broken. So the Constitutional Court, Supreme Court were staffed with political appointees, and then the principle of judicial independence was broken. Now the current government is trying to reverse it all. And of course, this is encountering a pushback from the president, who sees the judicial system staffed with his own people as a guarantee of law and justice, still yielding considerable power in the country. So I think we are heading towards more of a standoff and more of a confrontation here.
So while there is divisions at the top, there appear to also be divisions in Polish society in general, particularly when it comes to divisions between those who want closer ties with the EU and those who cling to traditional Polish values. Why do you think it's come to this?
Well, Poland has always been a very divided society, and then again you had a 30 few years of transition to democracy, transition to free market economy, and during this time, there are people who benefited from this process, and then there are those who benefited less from this process, and those who have not benefited substantially. Now they have political representation in the form of Law and Justice Party, which is well organized, well financed, has a strong charismatic leader who worked on this political representation for 30-something years. And as a result of that, you have a very, very polarized setup, a little bit resembling an American setup. I don't think that there is any other country in Europe which would be, in societal terms, as close to the United States as Poland. You have conservatives, and you have liberals.
We'll leave it there for the time being, but thank you so much for joining us today. Marcin Saborowski from Globsec. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.